Now for a session produced by our underwriter, Pfizer. A cycle of uncertainty, the rare disease patient's journey to diagnosis. Please welcome Suneet Varma, Global Oncology and U.S. President of Pfizer.
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Suneet Varma, and I'm currently, as you heard, the president of Pfizer Oncology. But in the years preceding that, because I was just named on September 1st, I was the president of Pfizer's Rare Diseases. And for me, that was not just a job, it was a purpose. And it was a very personal one at that. The reason being is that my daughter, Asha, was born with a rare genetic anomaly. And between my wife's hospitalization, maternal hospitalization, her time in the NICU, it was 5 months at Sunnybrook Hospital in Toronto in 2010. I'll tell you more about Asha in a moment, but I'd like to talk about rare diseases first and the challenges that millions of people suffering with rare diseases face. So what is a rare disease? In the US, a rare disease is defined as any patient group that is 200,000 patients or less. And in the size of a country like the United States, that's about 0.5% of the population. So small, and hence the name rare. However, when you consider that there are 7,000 rare diseases in the world, and you combine them collectively, they're not so rare anymore. In fact, 400 million people worldwide suffer from rare diseases, making them one of the most, let's say, universal categories of patients that are underserved, almost the same size as cancer. And cancer has a certain universality and omnipresence to it. Of these 7,000 rare diseases, 80% are genetic in origin, and 50% of them affect children. 1 in 3 of those children do not make it to their 5th birthday. Okay, and that is a real tragedy. Rare diseases are often progressive, debilitating, and significantly impacting patients and their families. And as you can imagine, these diseases take a significant financial toll on the families, the healthcare system, and society as a whole, but it's largely unrecognized. But despite all this clear need, 95% of rare diseases have no treatment option whatsoever. And that makes this, as I said, one of the most underserved patient communities in the world. So let's talk about what's driving that. There are 2 major problems that we need to attack. One is underdiagnosis, and the other is undertreatment. When you think about underdiagnosis, this is where there is a treatment option available, but the patients are not getting the correct diagnosis. Because the individual rare diseases are so uncommon, the symptoms and the effects are often unidentified, and families struggle to get an appropriate diagnosis. The process becomes, hence the title of this talk, a cycle of uncertainty. They go years without getting an appropriate treatment because there's no awareness, nobody knows what the disease is, nobody can identify the symptoms, including the doctors. So 8 years is a long time to go to get a correct diagnosis. It leads to, frankly, problems even in sophisticated countries with well-developed healthcare systems like the United States. Many families spend years bouncing around receiving multiple misdiagnoses. Very frustrating, as you can imagine. And this prolonged period of uncertainty can be profound on many levels: emotionally, physically, mentally, and financially. This results in delays that could have helped patients and their families sooner. So let's focus now on undertreatment. This is the reverse. This is where the patient does have a diagnosis, but then they soon learn that there is no treatment option available for them, or that they cannot access that treatment. Remember, 95% of rare diseases have no treatment options. So for patients who are lucky enough to get a correct diagnosis, then they are told there is no treatment choice. Imagine that. So there are many reasons why so few rare diseases have treatment options. Obviously, there's poor understanding of the diseases since they're so small individually, but collectively so large, but they all have different patterns that, say, emerge. Conducting research and clinical trials in this space is also challenging because the patient group is so thinly and widely dispersed around the globe, which makes it very challenging. And in any case, I can't really say which is worse: having a diagnosis but finding out there's no treatment, or suffering for many years without a correct diagnosis. So let me talk about what solutions could be on the horizon from a policy point of view to deal with diagnosis and treatment, that patient journey that we can all positively affect. Thankfully, the science is moving rapidly, and we're on the cusp of many new breakthroughs. There are about 700 products in development today, including gene therapy, that are on the cusp of gaining approval and coming to the hands of the patients and the caregivers. We need stronger policy and legislation to ensure that all patients have timely and accurate diagnoses and access to the treatment. No patient should be left behind. We can dramatically improve the diagnostic pathway through newborn screening. I know it sounds basic, but believe it or not, this is not a common thing in the United States, or consistently, I should say. Every state has their own way of doing newborn screening, and they do not all comply with the federal list. So what happens is, depending upon the zip code you're born in, you may or may not have certain genetic screens done when you're born. This leaves hundreds of babies undetected and without timely access to care every year. It's hard to imagine. But to ensure that babies born in every state in the United States have the same opportunity for a diagnosis, it's really important to pass legislation at the local level requiring states to screen all newborn babies for any disorder that is on the federal list. And with that screening, frankly, we'll make a giant step forward into the consistency of helping those babies when they're born. As I said, there should be no more death by zip code. Let's also talk about driving innovation to create new treatments. And many people may have heard of the Prescription Drug User Fee Act, or PDUFA. This is an incentive for regulatory pathways and drug development in rare diseases that we believe should be protected and even expanded. And this will give the best chance for everybody who's diagnosed to gain access to the treatment that they need. For example, today in the United States, the House and Senate are actively working to pass legislation to reauthorize PDUFA, which is already in existence. This will accelerate drug development in so many ways. It will allow us to provide resources for cell and gene therapy, which is the most pioneering of sciences that we have. It will advance real-world evidence, which is an important factor. We even saw that at play during COVID. This will also allow us to validate new rare disease endpoints, because these diseases have never been studied in the way we're proposing to study them. And it will protect the integrity of the accelerated pathway, which essentially gets medicines to the patients who need it as fast as possible. So we are calling on Congress to reauthorize PDUFA in advance of the October 1st sunset date, so we can continue to incentivize and drive forward the scientific innovation for those new treatments. The patients, as I said, are waiting. And let me say, yes, hope is on the horizon. Let me close where I started, and that is with my daughter, Asha. My wife and I chose her name. Sorry, it gets a little emotional. My wife and I chose her name because Asha means hope in Sanskrit. And that is the emotion we held on to when my wife was pregnant with her. Asha was really born with that sense of hope and lived her childhood with that same sense of hope. And by the way, she's still around today. I just want to make sure that you know that before I show. She still deals with some physical deficits, but basically she's perfect in every other way. As you can see from this picture, she leads a robust and happy life. She's funny, she's quirky, and she's super social. She's the one in the glasses in any picture that you see, or red earmuffs. Those are her two signature moves. She has a red belt in Taekwondo, and she just finished a Broadway summer camp of a production of Beauty and the Beast. She was a peasant in the ensemble cast. But this is what I want for every rare disease patient. We want them to be able to live their lives full of joy, of laughter, and most of all, hope, her namesake. I'm optimistic that we can make this happen if we keep pressing on the two fronts. We have to prioritize innovation to create new life-changing, life-saving treatments to treat these patients. And equally as important, we have to make sure we advance the policy environment to make sure, like newborn screening, we have the most timely and accurate and proper diagnosis possible. Every patient should have access to the care that they need, that they deserve, that they want. So Because many rare disease patients can't afford to wait, I think you would agree with me that they shouldn't have to. So let's change their experience and let's change it together. Thank you very much for your time and attention.